actually can collect 100% of your publishing. You don't need a publisher. I was a little inspired this week talking to a client who was asking for clarification on publishing because he's in the middle of negotiating a deal, and this is with, the producer and the songwriter and all the people who were involved. And so the question is, well, we need to do points and we need the publishing and we need the masters. How does this all work? And so I go, all right, I'm gonna clarify this and hopefully do it in a way that's super simple so that you can negotiate your own deals and have kind of authority over this moving forward. If you're excited, smash that like button and let's keep going. So the definition of music publishing, right? Very simple. Music publishing refers to the business of managing and exploiting the musical composition. So the composition is just the song. If you sat there with the piano and you sang, or the guitar and you sang and you did the thingies, the song you came up with is called the composition. And then when we actually put it into a recorded version, so it's a sound recording, that's now the master. Okay, so that's why we kind of put it into two groupings here. We have the song, which could be recorded and re-recorded and done all kinds of things with, but it's still the song, composition. And then we have the master, which is recording of the composition, and typically the record label is going to own the recording. So that's why we have the Taylor Swifts of the world who go and re-record her songs, because she has the right to do that because she doesn't own the masters anymore, but she will re-record and make her own new versions once her contract has expired for that. So besides, kind of understanding the difference between those two, music publishing is, well, we go, I need a publisher. I need to get, I need to have someone sign me right away and they're going to make all my dreams come true. Not exactly. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about how they kind of fit into this. We have the songwriters, we have the people who make the music, and then we have the publishers who go and represent the music, which typically means they are helping to register your music on PROs. That's one. And a PRO is a performance rights organization. If you're in the United States, that's going to be ASCAP, that's going to be CSEC, that's going to be BMI. Personally, I've been with BMI forever. If you're not in the United States, you'll have a different organization in your country. In any case, this is the company that collects publishing related to your composition. So we have songwriters, the publishers, and then the PROs who collect the monies. And so typically the PROs are going to say, well, we just need to know who to pay. And so it really is as simple as you going and setting up your own songwriter or publisher account, if applicable, on the PRO and just telling them who to pay. And so, kind of the workaround that a lot of people just don't even know is the case is you actually can collect 100% of your publishing. You don't need a publisher. And that's just how these PROs are set up. They don't want to deprive you of your money and be like, the only way you can get your money is to go and hire a publisher or sign with a publisher. No, that's not how it works. You don't need a publisher. You can collect your publishing. You just have to go register your music. And it just needs to be on one of the platforms. So I said, like for the US, BMI, ASCAP, just pick one. They're pretty much the same. Need contracts for your music business? Go to topmusicattorney.com to get downloadable templates such as NDAs, record label agreements, management agreements, featured artist agreements, and so much more. Go to topmusicattorney.com. I would be remiss to not mention this. In this whole process of protecting your publishing, getting the copyright registration is super important, because even if you go sign with a publisher, and we'll talk about what that, kind of looks like in a second, you still need to go and actually get your registration, right, with the US Copyright Office, because I always talk about if you have to enforce because someone steals your song, you give me a call. Hey, we need to file a lawsuit. I go, hey, have you registered your music? Because it's a prerequisite. You have to do that before we can go and actually file for you. And then there's statutory damages, which means if you don't have the registration before the infringement happens, you can go to a pot of money that's really little, like this usually. If you have your registration, you get to a pot of money that's kind of like this. All right, that's an oversimplified way of just saying it, but it makes a difference, okay? So in your publishing process, just make sure that when you make the song, and certainly before you release it, right, in a recorded version or otherwise, please make sure you get your copyright. All right, and if you need help with that, contact Delgado Entertainment Law. I'll link it down for you. Types of publishing deals. So we can split these into a couple different categories. If you're like, nah, Crystal, I absolutely need a publisher to help me, cool, love it. We can do administration deals. And this is pretty common, where they come in and publishers will be like, hey, we'll register your stuff with PROs, not just in the United States, but in all the countries. And we're also going to help with any licensing that you need to do, the collection of the royalties, and, they'll take a fee. You can also do co-publishing deals where the agreement would say you are assigning the copyright to the publisher during the term of the representation so they can do more things on behalf of you. And then finally, there's sub-publishing deals, which means that the publisher can get a sub-publisher to represent you as well. Okay. So, we can do all kinds of ways, but like at the end of the day, you just have someone who is helping to essentially register the music and deal with licensing, which PS you can do by yourself. And I just want to emphasize that because I'm not trying to like get someone out of a job and be like, don't work with the publishers. They're terrible. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just going, be clear that you can represent your own publishing, and they've made it so easy for you that you don't even have to register as a publisher with the PROs. You just register as a writer, if that's what you are, and you just make sure to collect 100% of all of the publishing. So then, royalties and income. It's really important that you understand that when we talk about mechanical royalties, that's from the sound recording from your music distributor, from music platforms. So that's not applicable to the publishing. It's just know that that's a different type of income that comes in. So when you're negotiating your deals and you're like, Crystal, should I give the producer some publishing royalties or should I give him mechanical royalties? And the answer to that is, well, from what earnings do you want that person to participate? And kind of a creative way to do this, if you're like, no, I want to own 100% of my music, I don't want to have to do accounting every year and pay people out, is just give people a little taste of the publishing. And you do that by saying, all right, Johnny, I'm going to give you 15% of publishing. So that means when I go to register my song on BMI, for example, then I'll input the information, say Johnny's going to get 15%. And so then BMI is going to pay Johnny his 15% forever. And that means you have to do no accounting, no administration. That's amazing. So that's why I mentioned the mechanicals. I just go, look, there are other revenues that come in from the actual streams and the digital downloads and all of that. And depending on how you want to negotiate the deal, you can have the person participate or not participate in that. All right. So finally, the collection of the royalties. All right. So we have the PROs, we have distribution companies, we have all these different places where monies are coming in. And you need to make sure that you just understand the difference. And so I just want to give you this clarity piece, which is we have mechanical royalties coming in from the sound recording, coming in from music platforms. We have the performance royalties coming in from the publishing, which is related to the composition, which is everything we're talking about right now. But then lastly, we have synchronization royalties, right? Which typically comes in from having your music in TV shows and movies and video games. So these are kind of the three big pots of royalties that you need to be concerned about. And there's different ways to collect those different things. Today, we're focusing on the middle one, which is publishing, and that's related to the actual composition. So now a couple pro tips. If you're hanging with me right now, you're amazing. All right, make sure you subscribe so that you get all the good juicy information for free, okay? So the pro tips that I would offer with what I've seen doing this for like almost a decade now. Number one is when you do a publishing deal of some kind, any kind, it's cool. I dig it. If you need help, please get it. So if you are going to sign with someone, please make sure in the agreement that it talks about transparency and the statements. I am fighting literally right now in regards to this, and it's a huge deal because it's a big artist and it's all this stuff. And the publisher represented the music for a very long time. And what typically happens is that as the producer, as the musician, as the songwriter, we expect someone else to do their job, aka the publisher, and to collect the money and to pay us when we need to be paid, and we're required to be paid under the contract. But if they don't, it's very important in the contract that it says, what do we do? So we go in the contract, hey, you have to provide a statement every quarter. Hey, the statement needs to provide a reasonable breakdown of what song, what was taken, were there fees taken off the top, all the things. And then if there is not that clarification, that's where we run into problems. Like what happens if they haven't done the accounting? Can we audit? So that's where I always go back to, man, you got to have a contract and you have to have a decent contract. That's where you get an attorney to help you. It's worth the investment, I promise. Because, otherwise then you're having a fight after the publisher stealing your money for 10 years and you've lost to like $20,000 versus paying the $500 to have an attorney review it for you. So in any case, statement transparency is number one. Number two, lost agreements. Please save your agreements. All right. So the next thing is like, hey, Crystal, I need you to deal with this publisher who hasn't paid me. And I go, all right, let me see the agreement that you signed. I have no idea where it is. I can't find it. I don't know what the terms were. That just puts us in a challenging place of where to start. Doesn't mean all is lost. It's fine. You can get some help, but it just makes it a tiny bit more difficult. And number three, post-termination concerns. If you do have a publisher and then you terminate at some point, just remember that you do need to go back to the PRO where your stuff is registered and send a little letter. All right. And usually it's just like an email. There might be a physical address you have to send it to, but you have to let them know to update the information. Because guess what happens? The publisher does not do you any favors. If you terminate with the publisher already went through all the headache of registering all your music under their name on the PROs, which is how they're getting paid. And so then what happens, and this includes like Universal, I swear it does, like the biggest companies. Music Attorney is your #1 legal resource for artists, producers, and record labels. Get contract templates, one-on-one legal advice, free master classes, and everything you need for your music business. Go to topmusicattorney.com. They do not make these administrative updates. They expect you to. And so you have to know that this is a step you need to take to be like, hey, here's all the songs, here's all the, information, all the stuff you need to update. I am now the 100% owner. This publishing company is no longer representing me. And to make sure you actually get paid. Because then if you don't, guess what? All your money continues to go to that publisher and then they never tell you. Again, all the places where I get involved. I'm like, hey guys, literally, hey Universal, you've been collecting this huge legacy acts catalog for like 5 years. We terminated. What's the deal? And they're like, oopsies. Yeah. This is just how we do it. I swear it's crazy. So anyway, that's your overview as far as how publishing works. But I just want to emphasize you can do it yourself. You can collect 100% of your money. You don't even need to set up a publishing company. But if you wanted to, it's just as simple as setting up a limited liability company. You have your own LLC. You use that. You register it as a publisher. But it just usually means more fees if you register as a publisher on BMI or ASCAP versus being a writer. So the workaround, in my opinion, is just do it as a writer, unless you really need a publishing company. Just do it as a writer and make sure you are, in fact, collecting all your monies. Subscribe, and I'll help you with collecting all your royalties. Thanks for watching.